Today I'm going to show you how our new satellite dish that brings us internet is acting. I can't say that it's acting that way, but it's a weird phenomenon. We just got this satellite dish installed on our house, pointing kind of low in the sky. And a couple of days later, I see this cloud formation up in my sky. And I was wondering, what? What? Look at all these little tiny lines. They can look like waves. They're all kind of perpendicular to those other lines converging in that same area. You see, from left to right, the lines of the clouds, they seem to be coming from that spot. In the sky, on the mountain. Look at all those lines. They look like parallel lines converging towards one spot. And a bunch of little perpendicular lines that make little waves perpendicular to where that point of convergence is. And somehow, my brand new satellite dish points out straight that way. And low in the sky. You think a satellite would be up in space, would be that low in the sky? And good thing was the only time I saw that formation. Days that passed after, the clouds were pretty much normal, or clear days, nice puffy clouds. But somehow, a couple of days after we got our satellite dish connected, that's up in the sky. And I'm walking that way to show you that where we're sitting from, we can see that way is the Kona Airport, Hualalai Mountain. And if we want to get cell phone reception, we usually have to be in sight of the Kona Airport. If we go in a dip, we don't get reception. So where is the satellite reception coming from? So we got Hualalai, it kind of stands out, and over there is Mauna Loa. Mauna Loa, the biggest mountain on Earth, most voluminous mountain on Earth. You can see a bit of snow on its mountain top. So Hualalai, Mauna Loa, and the other big mountain, the tallest mountain in the world, we can't see from our place, but it's Mauna Kea. And if you notice, those lines are kind of converging towards Mauna Kea. And you'll see the little ripple perpendicular line, they're kind of perpendicular to where Mauna Kea could be. Does that look natural to you? Gladly in Hawaii, we don't get chemtrails on a daily basis. Like when I go visit my family on the mainland, I notice that in the sky and I point that out to them. And they don't seem to care. It's natural. It's normal. Normal. We see that every day. And what are those chemicals shot by chemtrails? Aluminum, strontium, barium. So after turning off my camera on my first clip, I saw that part in the sky, so I pulled out my camera again. Look at those triangles. And more puffy weirdness. They are not natural. Look at all these little lines in the sky, these little puffy dots, dotted lines. And look at this triangle set here. Triangle, 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 triangle. It looks like a big boomerang that's flying across the sky. Might have been thrown from Australia. Australia somewhere out there. Look at those lines. Look at those tiny little lines. Tiny little lines here. How did that happen? Of course, there's no wind on that day. We usually have a bit of wind, at least some trade winds or Kona winds. There's always a bit of movement in the air. Sometimes we get still days like this. But never have I seen a sky like that. And back then was about the time, look at this halo around the sun, it was about the time that they turned on 5G across the mainland US, around many cities. A lot of people have been witnessing teams pop up at their town schools to install these big systems, big 5G systems, while everybody's locked up. Look at those white dots there. Does that look natural? So while you're locked up at home, you're not allowed to peek outside. They're setting up 5G systems all the way around you. Unless you're lucky enough to be living out in the mountains or living somewhere remote from cities, towns. To be away from the 5G, you're much better off having a slow internet than being on 5G and having some of your cells get destroyed in thin air. Because 5G is 60 gigahertz, 60 gigahertz microwaves. Okay, and in the 5G locality, there's a lot of posts around. So look again how low my satellite dish is pointing, and it's pointing towards those converging lines in the sky. And that was a few hours later than the first clip I showed you in the afternoon. First clip was in the morning, this is middle of the afternoon. The lines in the sky are still converging towards the same point. And they don't seem to have moved so much. And they're all converging towards Mauna Kea somehow. Why Mauna Kea? Well, what is on top of Mauna Kea? We got the biggest collection of observatories in the world. And they're also trying as hard as they can to get the TMT up there, 30-meter telescope, or too many telescopes. What is the TMT supposed to be doing? They want to build it on sacred land? Hawaiian people don't want that. No, thank you. They could tear down an old observatory that they're not using, because there are some that are useless. But no, they want to build that in a different spot where it's sacred. And they're really pushing it. Even though they got their permit revoked, they still went at it again a few years later. So guess what the Hawaiian people had to do? They had to go up on top of the mountain and defend the road. So this clip I want to show you this cloud, this weird cloud that was not the only time I've seen. It's a thick, long cloud that's holding that position between Pohakalua military station up between Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. And the cloud stretches towards Oahu, down the Hawaiian island chain. Looks like a big fat joint across the sky. And it doesn't move so much. And it keeps that shape. And look at the kind of the waves in there. Doesn't look too natural, does it? And it points towards Oahu. On Oahu, there's Pearl Harbor military station and probably more. Just wanted to show you that along with the other odd clouds. So people say we have satellites in the sky. Let me show you something. High altitude balloons. Okay, beginning in the 1930s, the United States Air Force began making forays into the atmosphere using balloons, and what followed laid the foundation for NASA and all American space exploration to come. So it was the foundation. So without those balloons, some people call them gondolas, it wouldn't have been possible for NASA to show you what they want to show you. It hadn't been possible for the Air Force to conduct so many experiments up there. Balloons bring you way up in the sky and you can sit there. So imagine if we were a ball spinning in space and you go way up in a balloon like that. You're very light and you're going way, way up, way up. And there's a vacuum out beyond, above you. Look at this guy, he's jumping. And somehow they're not showing you the whole picture of the earth beneath, are they? So imagine you're going up and up and up in a gondola, in a balloon like that, and you have a vacuum above you, and there's nothing in between. All you have is atmosphere. What is atmosphere? It's gas that's getting thinner and thinner as you get higher up in the air. NASA may have never achieved all that it has to date without the balloon program. They would have never done so. You think they go up in rockets? You think satellites are up in the air and they're floating around in space, always at the same place over us as the earth is spinning in a vacuum? How can these machines stay up in the same place without needing fuel? With these little solar panels they have on top? Think they can travel that distance and stay so steadily above our ground? Look at this balloon bringing up a satellite. Bring up, guys. Yee-hoo! Gone. What NASA does to its people. All that to make them believe we go to space. See how that balloon would just shoot way up in space without any limits? No dome above us, no firmament to hold us in? Arizona Space Balloon Port. That must be pretty close to where they shot the moon landing with Stanley Kubrick. Look at those balloons they use. And up on the right side, you see all the the parts hanging from the balloons. Balloon sat. So your satellite reception may be just sitting up on a balloon below the firmament. That sounds a lot more logic, doesn't it? There's a dome above us, a shield, the firmament we have. And balloons, they go up, and is what we rely to hold up our expensive satellites up in the air. And they're not going to fly any further up because we got a ceiling. Big glass ceiling, like Hillary Clinton says. And look at that picture up on the right corner there. Does that look like the Earth is a ball? That was taken from approximately 100,000 feet, 19 miles above Oregon. You see a tiny bit of curvature on the surface of the Earth. And as I show you in my video, as a curvature amateur, I demonstrate very well that we do have curvature on our Earth. But if we calculate well, using the math formula that Google proposes us to understand how we fit on the globe, we don't get that number. We see much further than the math. Sometimes twice as further, or we see things halfway. I mean, we see things at half the height that they're supposed. We wouldn't be able to see anything at that height. So watch my videos, please. I got a good dozen videos out there already on Louis Tubes, on YouTube, on my channel Louis Tubes. And with a dozen videos, if I haven't convinced you about what the shape of the Earth is, you're gonna have to look for more. So from a satellite, we would expect over Hawaii to have that image, wouldn't we? If I was a satellite, I'd be sitting over Hawaii, I'd be staring down, or over the Big Island. You know, you can see those details continuously. So we do have something up above us that is watching us. But is that the angle that my satellite dish on the house was pointing towards? No, it was pointing way down south of the Big Island. It was pointing kind of towards Mauna Kea. See the cell phone towers here. We have one on Mauna Loa, one on Mauna Kea. And usually we get reception if we're in line with the Kona airport from our place. And we can even get reception from our little antenna in Hawi from our place. We have to be in line with the Kona airport. Let's look at all the satellite companies. See all the dishes, they point kind of low, don't they? You think a dish needs to point that low if it's receiving information from a satellite up above? Is the satellite really up above? Or is that dish doesn't need to be pointing up to be receiving signals from above? Wouldn't you think so? See, they're all pointing low. The middle ones, they look like they're pointing a little higher up, like 45 degrees or even a bit lower. But most of them seem to be pointing kind of low. So I don't know what they do to calculate where to point their satellites, but there are a few apps or little gadgets that help you find the signal so you can locate where to point your satellite dish. Because somehow those satellites are invisible. You can say, oh, there it is in the sky, let's point at it. No, you gotta use this app or whatever gadget to find where the satellite is in space. Space! The Space Force cadets are gonna save us from space aliens. By the way, I am an alien, according to the US government, as I immigrated to the United States. They tagged me as an alien. I'm just trying to show you about satellites. So here we got Hawaii telescope protests shut down 13 observatories on Mauna Kea. Of course, the news is always going to make it look like the people are crazy. But no, I really thank the Hawaiian people for blocking out the road to go to the Mauna Kea summit. Even though I wanted to go there myself one day, and I saw that protest happening, I turned right back around with a smile, thanking them. Thank you guys. Sorry I didn't join in the protest. I got lots of things to do. It could be a bigger priority in my life, but I don't know how long we can hold the New World Order back. So it's a sacred place on Mauna Kea, a sacred place. Don't forget that, developers. So did anybody ever heard about that protest or the TMT being built or forced to be built on Mauna Kea? Does that ever pop up in your local news out there? Or is it just something they want to keep suppressed? They don't want anybody to know out there. They want to keep the tourists away from the telescopes. Is Mauna Kea really sacred? Who are you to judge that? Who are you, Mr. Google? What do you consider sacred? How many telescopes on Mauna Kea are not working? Why do we need so many telescopes? Why do we need to observe space? Are we really going to figure out how to live our lives better by staring out in space? Find answers up there? So much money wasted on space. So I just want to know if there is something transmitting up there. I know there's a cell phone tower. More protests continues against the giant telescope. Thank you, protesters. I understand it's not that effective to be protesting, but what else can we do? We can't go tear it down ourselves. We'd be labeled as criminals. So that's the Gemini one on Mauna Kea. They also have one in South America. These guys, they transmitting spectrums. So they're putting out airwaves, microwaves. What does that do to our nature? What gives people like that the authority to try all these microwave frequencies out there? There are lots of inventions, patented inventions that make microwaves, not just your little oven in the kitchen, but a lot of weapons that people don't even know about. People think that nukes are dangerous. Well, you should hear about directed energy weapons. What they do, what they have done. They have been hitting a lot of people, innocent people. In California, in Australia, in Calgary, it happens that we see a big neighborhood go out on fire. Somehow no trees get burnt right next to the house. And somehow some houses or the whole lot get spared by those flames. They call them wildfires, but somehow the wilderness doesn't burn. Plastic doesn't melt. But terracotta tiles on the roof, they burn because of the aluminum in there. People's cars scorch. Parked in the middle of the street, nothing near around. What does microwaves do? It excites metal. Makes it vibrate so intensively that it becomes hot and burns. Nikola Tesla was dealing with microwaves over 100 years ago. The government seized him and all his assets and had him work for the big brother for decades until he died, and they took all of his stuff away. So if you're interested in knowing what's going on Mauna Kea, check it out. If you can't come all the way here to Hawaii, there are plenty of articles out on the internet written by local people, peaceful warriors. So anyway, I just wanted to show you how weird it can be here. I know it gets a lot weirder on the mainland, but just wanted to show you a little glimpse of the Hawaiian weirdness. See why people support us. See all the support of the TMT? So many people support us. We should be doing that. Look, let's paint a big piece of pie blue and we'll tell everybody how much support we get. Don't you love those statistics they put up to your face? You know, say, this is how it is. But later on you find out through some other source that what they tell you is not necessarily how the statistics were read or what the statistics meant. There's a lot of information like what the CDC puts out. You know, they say, oh, so many thousands of people died. But there's a little asterisk in the corner saying, these are presumed numbers. Presume. We presume that you died from that. Too bad for you. You're labeled as a CV-19 victim. We're going to carve that into history. Even though you've had bad habits throughout all your life, and you're very old, and it's normal that you're going to be dying. No, you're going to be labeled according to what the CDC wants the people to fill out the death certificate with. So stay alive, live, protest, look, listen, open your eyes, open your mind, and be ready to fight.